Okay, well, welcome everybody. And as George just indicated, this portion of the meeting in the open session is being recorded. And we do have the agenda that's before us. And the first matter that we start our board meetings with is the Land Acknowledgement. So I will start there. Waterfront Toronto acknowledges that the land upon which we are undertaking our revitalization efforts is part of the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. In addition, Waterfront Toronto acknowledges that Toronto has historically been a gathering place for many Indigenous people, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. So the next item of business is the approval of the meeting agenda. As George has indicated, we did make a change, and that after the chair's remarks, we will be going in camera. So I think that is on the new agenda, but so subject to that change, which has now been incorporated, I would ask, is there a mover and seconder to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
Okay, Andrew and Joe, thank you very much. The next item is the declarations of conflict of interest. And so I will start. I would advise the board, as I advised at the recent IREC meeting, that I had previously declared that my company had development partnerships with several Quayside RFP proponents, although these partnerships do not relate in any way to Quayside or any other Waterfront Toronto project. I would like directors to know that I've been advised that my company's partnerships do not create a legal conflict, and from a procurement perspective, I could now resume participation in Quayside discussions. However, to avoid the perception of any possible conflict, until the corporation enters into a project agreement with the proponent, I will not be participating in any board or committee discussions concerning the issues with the proponent, nor will I be voting on any related matter that might come before the board. However, as board chair, I do expect to be advised of developments relating to the overall status of the project, such as whether the project remains on time or if there are any serious issues that may be developed, but I will not be involved beyond that. So having stated that, I believe Alicia has one conflict as well.
I do.
Yes, and that's on the lease, Alicia?
It's on item 5H of the consent agenda with respect to the Waterfront Toronto office lease.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any conflicts? Okay, then moving along, I just want to make some opening remarks. And as always, I want to thank our government partners for their participation and their ongoing support for Waterfront Toronto. And I think, as George said at the beginning, I'm really hoping, well, we can't predict with certainty, that our next meeting in June, we will be able to meet in person. And that's what we will be planning for. But as we look back over the past 2 years, it's important to reflect not only on the challenges we faced, but also on many of the successes that we have achieved. We spent most of our time dealing with issues on Quayside and the Portlands Flood Protection Project, but there have been efforts by so many other parts of the organization that I thought it was important today to recognize those groups and what they've done. For example, the planning and design team who have helped us lead by example, such as Love Park and the Design for Parliament Slip. Our project delivery team who are delivering the Portlands project, including the new bridges and the Lakeshore Bridge project for the city. The development team that is bringing to fruition many ideas on Quayside, as well as the Innovation Center, which is now 90% leased, and the affordable housing project that's now proceeding on East Bayfront. The philanthropy team that's been put in place is now about to receive its first significant gift for the city. The strategic policy and innovation team, which has developed a new strategy to attract world-class events to the waterfront and enhance our community benefits approach for many projects while ensuring a strong working relationship with governments. And all those provide support from finance, who've led us in best practices to keep our affairs in order, led the charge on our revenue and borrowing consent requests, and work closely with our government partners to ensure we remain aligned. Human resources, who have helped navigate our work through COVID work issues and new programs, such as our diversity, inclusion, and equity programs. Legal, who have been invaluable on Quayside and on the Parliament slip properties, as well as our board and committee activities. Project management, who work behind the scenes to ensure our projects run smoothly. Procurement, who led the charge in Quayside and the selection of the Right Honourable Beverly McLaughlin as our fairness monitor. Communications, who have seen the rollout of Quayside after working so hard as well with our stakeholders and manage our social media profiles. And IT, who have helped us manage through very trying circumstances these past 2 years as the corporation has pivoted from working in the office, working from home, and a mixture to where we are today. And all the other administrative staff who've also worked to make the place work in such a positive fashion on a day-to-day basis. And so I would like to say as well, George, your leadership has been nothing but tremendous and fantastic. We all enjoy a great relationship working with you. And so to the entire Waterfront staff, I would say thank you. And at that point, having just gone through all that we've done and appreciative of what everybody's done and look forward to the future, I'm very pleased to advise that Andrew McLeod and Kevin Sullivan have recently been reappointed to the board by the province. And so Kevin and Andrew, thank you very much for your contributions and commitment to the organization. And I guess for better or worse, I'm also pleased to announce that my term as board chair has also been extended for another year, effective to March 21st of next year. So I look forward to working with everybody and continuing the great work we've done in the past moving forward. So those are my opening remarks. If anyone has any questions or comments, I'm happy to hear them. Otherwise, we can move on to the next part of the agenda, which will be our in-camera session. Okay, seeing none. George, we're going to go in camera. Right. We need a motion for that, Ian?
Yes, please. Go into closed
session.
Motion
to move in camera.
I'll move it.
Okay, great. Jack and Alicia. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, great. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which a lot of it, as you're aware, we have the highlight of key messages that I'm assuming has been read, and hopefully people have been finding that helpful. And then we need the approval of the minutes of the open session of December 9th and February 15th board meetings. So I'll ask Wendy and Alicia to move and second those motions. And
Second.
The next item on the agenda is the CEO report.
All right, Steve, I'll just touch on a few things. First of all, just to thank the governments for the renewals that, Steve, you've mentioned in terms of both Andrew and Kevin, and of course, the renewal and extension of a year for you. So I'm very grateful to all of those renewals. And I do want to also acknowledge Joe Cressy's appointment was extended to the end of the term before council goes to election. So Joe, I want to thank you for your contribution as well. Quayside is on the agenda. So all I'll say is that we've had a very good response to the announcement on Quayside. We're into negotiations on the development agreement. That's going very well so far. So far, so good. And I'll let Meg speak to that in a few moments. The government oversight and the review, I'll just say, as you know, there will be a staff report coming out to council, hopefully in May, helping to address some of the roles and responsibilities with a more detailed report back in the first half of 2023. So I won't mention much more on that. Our return to work has begun again. We were 1 and then 2 days prior to Christmas We then, as the mayor and others, the province asked us to reduce our in-person. We have kind of stayed the course in terms of leaving the office open. So we've had people coming in, but not mandating it. We are just now starting a day a week, although we've had people in here, multiple people in here throughout that pandemic. We will then have people starting 2 days a week after Easter, and then we'll reassess at that point. We've been very operational. We are doing it based on functional need. And we are also making sure that operational needs are addressed. So even though we're a day a week, many of us, because of development agreement and other requirements, are in some are in actually 5 days a week. So we're back and very functional. So I'm not too worried about that aspect of it. I spoke briefly to you at camera about resourcing issues. On the Indigenous, we continue to have very good discussions with the Mississaugas of the Credit, looking at Quayside and other initiatives. I should point out on Monday, on Water Day, Minokamik, who's one of our partners, both on the flood protection, on Parliament Slip, and on Quayside, requested to have a private ceremony with our two teams to pull together a much more trusting relationship by launching a ceremony on Water Day. We were very fortunate. We had two elders, Jim Dumont, who's a very senior elder. They call him the Elder of Elders, and Shelley Charles, and then the rest of the Minokamik team, along with the people from Waterfront Toronto, including myself, who had a great smudging and broader ceremony and blessing. And then we took them for a tour. They're very impressed, very excited to be working with us. So I think we're on a good footing with regards to working with our Indigenous communities on the projects. I think, Steve, quite frankly, I think that's it. Portland's we are going to be talking about very shortly, and Quayside, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, any questions of George? Okay, so moving on to the agenda, we have the reports from Farm and IREC and Human Resources and stakeholders. I would just ask if there's anything in the public session that the committee chairs. I'll start with you, Kevin. Is there anything from the Farm report that you think should be brought to our attention? I think you're on mute.
And Kevin, I could jump in on one additional risk while he's on mute, unmuting.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin, sorry.
Let me just say that we have one item for approval arising out of the Farm Committee, which is the Delegations of Authority, which is an annual administrative function. And we have had a couple of new risks that have surfaced since the Farm Committee on February 24th, that one of which we're going to ask George to address here, which is one of those risks that you didn't know, you never knew about until you knew about, which is associated with the Ontario Dump Truck Association. So can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, I'll just touch on that very briefly. So Ellis Don brought to our attention that the Dump Truck Association has indicated that they may be holding some illegal walkouts or slowdowns, and to recognize the challenges they've had with rising costs associated with, gas prices and other things. So it's impacting them quite a bit. We'll wait and see what the actual impact of that will be in terms of whether they do walk out. If they do, obviously it has an impact on us with regards to moving the soil, with regards to cement delivery. So this just became brought to our attention subsequent to the actual farm meeting. So David and I just wanted to raise this, and we'll keep Farm apprised as we go forward. We'll just have to monitor this as a potential risk. I don't know, David, if you want to say anything further.
I do, George. And in fact, the Dump Truck Association or certain, I guess, unaffiliated dump truck drivers have at the beginning of this week started to blockade entrances to pits, quarries, and cement factories. Dufferin Cement or Concrete has as of yesterday, been unable to produce any product or make any deliveries because of this. It's not a job action. In fact, it's these aren't members of any collective bargaining unit and don't have any collective agreements with any owners. They're independent truck drivers. So the a couple of the owners, the concrete companies and pit owners are going to court tomorrow to attempt to get an injunction to stop the blockade so that product can continue to be delivered. At this stage, we haven't had any direct impacts to the project, but obviously if this continues for any length of time, both our aggregate and stone as well as concrete deliveries for the project, for all of our projects for that matter, could be at risk.
So Kevin, we just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board subsequent to the farm meeting.
Okay,
I
I
guess-
look forward to ongoing updates there. Just one other minor thing, Steve, I wanted to, not that minor, but the farm committee reviewed our draft work plan for the year, and we requested some changes to include that we be updated quarterly on the environmental, social, and governance aspects, given the importance of ESG. And I just wanted to bring it up. So it wasn't required under our mandate, and I'm pretty sure it's probably not under the other committee mandates, but it's probably a good practice to get into, get a quarterly ESG update from management. So we revised that language and approved the plan, and that's my open session report.
Great. Well, that's a great pickup, Kevin, and an important point. Any questions of Kevin or David? Okay, Wendy, is there anything in the open session you want to report on?
Yes, thanks, Steve. I just wanted to report that the meeting on March 3rd went well with the Human Resources Governance and Stakeholder Relations Committee. And in addition to the board retreat, which will be discussed later in this meeting, we agreed no changes were needed at this time to our committee mandate. And we received a very informative report from Rose and her team on HR matters, which highlighted the new HR module and payroll system that we're adopting, and also our activities related to recruitment, organizational effectiveness, retention, and performance management, and our return to workplace practices and policies. All of this is included in our report from the CEO. So I think that's it, Steve, from the committee report.
Great. Jack, is there anything from IRAC?
Just very briefly, our March 10th meeting, we had a very busy agenda and lots of updates on important matters of Quayside. As you see in your books, there's the lease of our space is coming up, and Lisa will take us through the detail there. I should just point out at the outset that Alicia has declared a conflict in respect of that matter, in that her employer, Oxford, is our landlord. So the materials have been revised to ensure that Lisa is kept at well arm's length to this and won't be involved in those discussions. But otherwise, we'll come to that later in the agenda with Lisa, I take it.
Okay, if there's no questions of Jack, I think we were going to get an update on the lease, but I think, Alicia, I guess you should drop off at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to drop.
And then Ian, will you make sure that when we're done that Alicia gets notified to come back?
Yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
you.
Ian. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Lisa, the floor is yours first on the update on the lease.
Great. Thanks, Steve, and good morning, everyone. So this item, as Jack mentioned, was reported to the IRAC committee earlier this month, and it's really just a heads up to the board that we expect to have a future lease transaction related to our office space for consideration at the next board meeting in June. The board is required to approve any lease over $2 million in value, and this will exceed that. Our existing lease for office space here at 20 Bay, where we've been for about the last 15 years, expires in May 2023, which is just over 12 months from now. We do have an option to renew this space at our current market rates, which would be a differential or an increase of about $7 a square foot. But we're taking the opportunity to revisit how and where we work, assessing our future space needs and opportunities, particularly post-pandemic. So on that, we've engaged real estate services firm competitively Avison Young to assist us in that. We're currently there's a 3-phase work plan with them. We're in phase 1 of that work plan almost completed, which is the development of a workplace strategy. They will also support us in completing a business case regarding location alternatives, and we did include some preliminary information on possible locations in your package, and some of those include the T3 Bayside, the Waterfront Innovation Centre, and the LCBO building on Queenskey, followed by the 3rd phase, which would be brokerage support for an eventual lease transaction, whether it be for our existing location here at 20 Bay or a new location. The work that we've done so far with Avison Young did include an all-staff survey back in December and early January, which we had a 98% response rate. It clearly showed a preference for a hybrid work model going forward, with staff preferring 1 to 3 days in the office, and with the purpose being for the office being for collaboration. Other comments, just highlights that I would make is it is possible that we may look at reducing from the 22,000 square feet we currently have, or we might decide to keep the size and repurpose more of the space to increase collaborative uses. As George mentioned, staff are transitioning back to work 1 day a week this week, increasing that to 2 days just after Easter. And final comment I would make is just in terms of our legislative mandate and the term of the lease, we are limited to a 5-year lease term because our mandate is to May 2028 currently. And so that does limit us a little bit in terms of potential deals that we may be able to secure with the landlord in terms of free rent period or tenant improvements. So that's just something for the board to be aware of. And I don't know, George, is there anything else you want to add to it?
No, I think, we continue to look at what would that future model look like in terms of more collaborative space, recognizing some people aren't going to be here 5 days a week. And also looking at, we co-located Colliers, who helps us on a number of our projects. So they're taking up some of our space. There may be other opportunities with key partners to co-locate as well. So we're looking at all those options.
Yeah, I should add the IREC committee did ask us to provide regular updates in advance of the June meetings on this project, which we will do.
Well, that's great. Really responsible and good steps being taken on this. So it looks all in order. Any questions of Lisa on this? Okay, seeing none, if we could ask Alicia to come back. And Lisa, you're going to be up next as well. And we'll just wait, I guess, 1 second. But the next item Kevin mentioned is really a housekeeping matter, but it's the Delegations of Authority, which has been reviewed and updated, and we will need a resolution to approve it. But hopefully, Alicia will be back in a minute.
Charmaine,
Alicia's on.
she's on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
I'm back.
So, Alicia, thanks. We're now on the Delegations of Authority, which is Kevin mentioned a housekeeping matter that needs to be updated in the bylaws. So Lisa, do you want to just again bring us up to date on this?
Absolutely. So it's been just over 2 years actually since the corporation's Delegations of Authority was reviewed and updated by the board. Ian Ness, our general counsel, and myself have worked with the senior management team and relevant staff in the organization to determine what areas of the DOA should be updated. We set out a summary of the key changes in your materials on pages 58 to 59, which describe those changes, which, as you mentioned, Steve, are more of a housekeeping nature. The changes typically fall into the following general categories. 1, to articulate the delegation process more clearly in the absence of the CEO or a C-level position. 2, to align the delegations of authority with the recently updated board committee mandates that were approved last year. 3, to update for new and emerging business areas, such as our gift agreements for fundraising and philanthropy. And then finally, just to align and update with other current practices. So as Kevin mentioned, and yourself, Steve, the Farm Committee did review these changes at their meeting last month and are recommending them for board approval today.
Any questions of Lisa?
Steve, it's
Okay.
Rahul. Just a quick one.
Yes.
These are really extensive, right? Which is good on the one hand. I guess my question is a little bit broader in terms of assurances they're actually being followed, in the sense of, do people actually understand these, and what are you doing to track them to make sure they're actually being followed?
People do understand them, and they are being followed for sure. Many of them actually, or all of them, in terms of the procurement authorities and the contract execution is built into our system. So in our ERP system, contracts have to go through that delegation of authority. That was one of, when we implemented the system, we used our delegations of authority as a key input into setting up the system. And all of our legal agreements and executions go through our legal team, and they always have 2 signing officers on them, which is part of the core part of the delegations of authority. And then just generally in terms of our internal controls, this is a cornerstone of our internal controls in terms of, you know, finance, accounting staff, making sure that anything that relates to banking and all of those kinds of things are adhered to. So it's a well understood document that way.
Yeah, so I think, Rahul, just as Lisa pointed out, part of this is embedded in the electronic system that we have, which doesn't allow us to break outside of that. But the gaps, quite frankly, these are housekeeping. The gaps were really when I was away. We had nobody else who had the authority to sign off if I was on vacation, et cetera. We just cleaned up some of that.
Yeah. And just a quick follow-up. Is there a spot audit done on this at all do we get a report back on this during the audit process?
This is part of the external auditors' scope when they come in and audit our financial statements. This is a key internal control. So they do look at that. And from an internal audit point of view, we also have our ERP system actually as part of the 3-year internal audit plan. So that's actually coming up to do a detailed review of that system and the controls in it. But it does get reviewed annually by our external auditors, including they always look at ability of management to override internal controls and things of this nature. So, and that's always had a clean report in the past.
And Steve, just to reiterate, my questions are coming from a good place. These are rather extensive, and it's good to know that these are built into the procedures.
Yeah.
Okay, Alicia?
Just a question or an observation. Maybe it's done through a certain system or taken as a given, but I just, from an audit perspective, I'm not sure it says that these delegations are given in writing or the changes to the CEO sub-delegation. So I don't know if that's something that you want to specify, that it's done in writing, if that's your process.
Yeah, it is our process, and we'll make sure that it's in the document.
Yeah, it definitely not only went through our senior management team, and then it went through me for final approval. So.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so thank you for those comments. Leslie and Wendy, could you ask you to move and second a motion? Okay, great. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very, very much. So the next item, we had a hard time getting a date, but I think we have a date now for a retreat. It was very difficult finding a date that that everybody could attend. I think we have pretty good attendance. I'm not sure it's 100%, but Wendy, I think I'll turn the floor over to you at this point.
Thanks, Steve. Yes, we, you know, as board directors know, we've been trying to organize this education board retreat for some time, and we understand that the date is not perfect for everyone, but we're currently planning to hold the retreat on June 16th. And I'd just like to add that if anyone's interested in helping to plan the session and has any topics that they would like raised or discussed, I'd be very pleased to hear from them. And I think we'll be kicking off the planning for the retreat in the next week or two.
Great. Looking forward to it. George, what's the percentage attendance that we'll be having?
I think almost everybody, I think Joe indicated there's a council meeting that day, so he won't be able to attend, but Charmaine, can you just update me on any others?
And Michael is the only other member.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, well, we did the best we could, but thank you. I think it should be, we've talked about this for some time, and looking forward to a very positive session. Okay, next, David is up on giving us an update on the priority projects.
Good morning again. Yes, I'm going to give you a visual update on the status of the projects we're doing across the waterfront. If we could go to the next slide, Charmaine, you can see from the Bentway out at the west end over to the Portlands project in the east. We have a number of projects going on, so without further ado, just some highlights of the work that's happened since the last board meeting in December. Can we move on to the next slide? So Love Park, some clean cap excavation going on as part of the addressing risk management measures for the project. So that work is well underway. Next. We have the wall excavations going in for the pond, the heart-shaped pond, and the construction actually happening across the site on a variety of tasks, including, as you can see, some electrical installations with Toronto Hydro. Next. Waterfront Innovation Center is now complete. They have just completed the public realm in front of the building on Dockside Drive, and should be available for occupancy at this point. And I'm not sure when the first tenants are moving in, but we'll report back to the board on that.
Building looks really good.
In East Bayfront, the in-water pipe work has more or less been on hold for the winter as the water has been, or the inner harbor has been frozen for most of the winter, but we are getting ready to remobilize the laborers and equipment to begin to install the pipes. You can see the pipes have arrived and are being stored on our property at 333 Lakeshore Boulevard. T3 Bayside, so the Hines wood structure, tall wood structure. The core has risen just about to its top level, and work has begun installing the columns and floors. It's actually quite a spectacular building.
So, David, I'll just say that was part of the tour that we did with Quebec, and the mass timber is probably up 4 stories now. It looks pretty spectacular.
Thanks, George. Next. In Aquabella, we are working on completing the childcare center. It'll be done by the end of August. Just some of the interior work's a little different than the stuff we usually do, some interior fit up as opposed to infrastructure work. Next. I think we've got some photos of the interiors, the murals that were created, were recently installed. So that's a few months away, but getting closer. Next. In the Bentway, a couple of projects happened. At the Strawn Gate, the Bentway has completed some, or is working on some interior finishing to make that building more usable, and that work is going to be done in time for their summer season. We are also, go to the next slide, Charmaine, we are also working on repairs to the bank erosion. So a couple of years ago, a very heavy rainstorm washed away some of the embankment along the Fort York frontage. So we have undertaken to provide a retaining wall, so that wall has been constructed, and there's a bit of work yet to be done on both the landscaping as well as new Corten panels to match what is in the front of the Fort York Visitor Center. Next. Lakeshore Boulevard East, you can see a photo with the ramps down from the Gardiner to the Lakeshore. Next. We have started working on, and in fact, we have now removed the deck for the eastbound Lakeshore Boulevard, so that that bridge, that section of the bridge is no longer in existence. Work on caissons for the new lengths of bridge will commence in the next couple of weeks as we work to get the eastbound bridge completed by the end of this year. Next. Just one of our latest propeller shots from those dawn, so drone video, just to highlight the current status of work. And you can see the river outline, the bridges north, south, and Commissioner Street. So let's go to the next one. We'll have some new shots coming up shortly. We stopped taking the shots over the winter because the snow really didn't illustrate any of the work that we were doing. With respect to excavation, we have a little bit of work left to do at the Polson Slip and a little bit of work left to do under the Commissioner Street bridges, but essentially the north ice management area of the river and the elbow have been connected, and there's probably a couple of weeks worth of excavation work left to be done on the river, and we will be complete. So that'll be a big day. Next. I don't know if I'm frozen or you're frozen, Charmaine.
No, does anyone else see the video? It's playing on my end.
No, none of us see the
it's
video.
not on.
One moment.
We have a new drone video that Charmaine is trying to get posted. Here we go. So as usual, starting from the Polson Slip, you can see the river outline, finishes on the north and south. Cherry Street Bridge at the point of time of, we restarted, Sherman, that's okay. And restart again, we may have to.
Might have to reboot it.
Yeah, or let's see what it does this time, and if not, we'll move on.
Sorry, it keeps freezing. I don't know why. There, it's still frozen. One moment.
Charmaine, Giovanna's coming over to you.
Okay, there it goes again.
It's going down.
All right. So this was a little while ago. The Cherry Street Bridge still not on its foundations, which you'll see in a photo in a couple of minutes that it has been moved to its permanent foundations, and we're frozen again.
It's
so I think we're probably
again, yes.
Let's dispense with the video, Charmaine. Maybe we can send a link to it out to
Okay.
the board members so they can see it.
Good idea.
Okay, one moment.
All right, David, I think we're back to you.
Yeah, I'm just, there we go. I'm waiting to see the, there we go. So Cherry Street South Bridge, you can see is now on its permanent foundations over the river mouth. Last piece of work to do here, once we are able to close, open this bridge and then close Cherry Street, is to complete the west plug work and the river excavation at this area in advance of opening up the river to the inner harbor in late 2023. Next slide. This is a view from the other side showing the finishes at the river mouth. So you can see that on the right hand side, the armor stone and that protects the river mouth from scour. Next slide. Doing some additional work. This is at the existing or the Cherry Street Bridge North, doing some ice testing to make sure that any ice buildup on the bridges is properly controlled and doesn't result in any danger or harm to pedestrians, cyclists, or vehicles. in the event of ice buildup and ice melt. Next. In the wetlands, we are planting, these are called drowned trees. I'm not sure that's the greatest name ever, but that's the one that they use. So there's probably over a dozen of these trees in the various wetlands across the river, and they are there for both, fish habitat as well as bird habitat, and are part of the natural ecosystem that we're constructing. Next. Some of the other finishes, which we've seen before, we've got the FES lifts, so the burlap wrapped soil that we'll be beginning to do planting in this summer, and then the crib walls, that are created of interwoven logs with their root wads intact, both to create a riverbank structure as well as fish habitat once the river is flowing. Next. We have on the right-hand side the abutments and foundations for the pedestrian bridges that cross the river. So there are a couple of places you can get across the river that are not the main vehicular bridges, but are pedestrian bridges through the parks. And then on the left side of those foundations as well. Next. I mentioned the FES lifts, the fabric encased soil, and the planting thereof. So those are an important structural feature as well as natural features for the river. And just another view of the wood crib walls with the root wads being laid up in a herringbone pattern with very massive rocks that are tied to them to create the structure to withstand any erosion from the river in whatever size flows we receive. Next. At the north end of the site, Lakeshore Boulevard, we have removed the pedestrian and cycle bridge north of Lakeshore Bridge, as work has now commenced in the sediment and debris management area. And I mentioned previously the 100-year-old plants that we have identified in the from the river wetlands, or from the river, not wetlands, but peat layers. So those were harvested by TRCA and will be replanted this summer once we begin planting in the river valley. And just there are obviously quite a number of articles related to Quayside when that announcement was made, but there have been a number of other media events, or not events, but stories related to the waterfront, the Bentway, and others. Just some examples of those here. And I think that's the last slide.
Who's painting those blue?
Oh, that's the Bentway. So that is the Bentway. The Bentway, the city, and the Waterfront BIA have undertaken to do improvements to the underpasses, essentially, of the Gardner, where they cross at Strawn, Reese, and a couple of others. I'm not sure all of them that are being done this year, but that's what this particular article is about on the right-hand side.
They should be doing that. They should be doing that everywhere.
They should. It
looks good.
Little cherry pickers with the faces on them are actually part of the plan. So they'll be installed for some period of time as well. So
right. Cool.
And that's the last slide.
Right. Wow. It's amazing work. Thank you, David. Well done. Appreciate everything you're doing. Does anyone have any questions for David? Okay, so seeing none, we'll now have a motion to go into closed session. Paul, are you happy to move that? And seconded by Kevin?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So if we could call Steve Diamond, please, and have him rejoin us. Thank you, Charmaine.
Okay. So everything's done on that?
We are done that conversation.
We are back and open. We're open, Steve.
Oh, okay. So is there a resolution from the closed session? I think that has to be passed, being the minutes from December 9th and February 15th.
No, I've left that for you.
Okay, so thanks, Jack. That's very courteous. Okay, Jack, I'll let you move it. And Wendy, can you second?
Thank you, we will.
Okay, so unless there's any other business, seeing none, it seems that the meeting is now over. And we'll have a motion to terminate the meeting. 25 minutes early. We're doing pretty well.
Happy to move it.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you. And as I said, hopefully the next one will be in person.